Have you ever got to the point where you've gone through an entire presentation with a prospect and you thought you were on fire? You were really sharp. You had your slides or your demo going and you were addressing all their points. And then at the end of the presentation, the prospect turns to you and says, you know, we just don't have the budget for this. If you've ever been in that situation, it can feel like you've wasted your time not dealing with quite a simple barrier to the sale. But I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to be lost at that point. Quite simply, what we need to be doing is not giving prospects any indication about what we charge for our services until we're absolutely sure that A, we can help them, and B, that they have the budget. So in this video, I'm going to share with you how you can deal with the budget barrier and establish a budget with your prospects before giving them a price. And the first thing we need to do is we need to establish the cost of their challenges first. This is really, really key. In 21st century selling, we should be absolutely drilling down into the problems, the root causes, and the effects of those problems on a client's business. And so therefore, we should really be having these in-depth conversations about what challenges and problems they have and the cost they have to the business. Okay, and we want to get that cost in a monetary figure. It's not good enough for a prospect to go, yeah, that's costing us money. We want to, where possible, get the prospect to share with us exactly how much money is that potentially losing the business, or how much money could that lose the business within the next 6 months if it wasn't resolved. So the way to get this out of a prospect is quite simply to ask. Just say, hey John, you know, what do you think the cost of this challenge is to the business? Okay. Now, the language there is quite important. When you ask somebody what they think, they're more inclined to give you an opinion rather than what is the exact cost of this business. But however you get there, you want to find a monetary figure, you know, saying what the cost of the business is. Once you have that, we can then start asking questions around budget. And like our first question, we simply just want to ask, John, do you have a budget for this project? Okay. Well, John, do you have a budget for this project? Make it very direct, very simple. It's an uncomplicated question, and it should just give you an uncomplicated answer, either a yes or a no. If they say yes, they're probably going to share with you what that budget is. And if they say no, don't freak out. In fact, if they say no, it can be potentially seen as a good sign, because 21st century selling is all about finding problems that the prospect didn't even know they had, let alone put a budget for. So if they don't have a budget for the project, don't freak out. It just means they haven't thought about it. So just roll with it and explain. Well, the reason I ask is because I want to avoid us having to go back and forth when we present a proposal. Okay, see how that works? The reason I ask is because I want to avoid us having to go backwards and forwards with a presentation. Okay, now that should make sense to a serious buyer. So all that follows is for you to ask again what their budget might be. Only this time we ask a little bit differently and a whole lot more intelligently. So something like this. So John, in order to solve the challenge that you mentioned was costing you about £20,000 a year, what could you see yourself investing in this project? Okay. So whatever it is that they said it was costing you, whatever that monetary figure is, make a note of it and just feed it back to them. In order to solve this challenge you mentioned, John, that's costing you around about £20,000 a year or a month maybe, what could you see yourself investing in a solution? Now, this is a whole new question. It's very open and it allows the prospect to just, you know, plug in what is it worth to me to save £20,000 a month, for example. So they'll give you some idea of a budget that they might be able to scrape together, provided they're the decision maker. Okay. Now, more than half the time, you'll find that prospects will give you an idea of a budget that will work for them or that they can consider at this stage. But don't be alarmed if you get those few prospects that find that question still a little bit too difficult. It could be that you sell a really complex service to complex problems, or it might be that you're not dealing with a decision maker who handles the budget, but you need to influence them to speak with higher up stakeholders. Don't freak out. Just give them a range. This is our last resort. We call it a range question, which, as the name suggests, you give them the cost of a low-cost solution and one of your higher ticket solutions, and you let them choose where in that range they might see. So that would look something like this. Andy, in order to solve these problems you mentioned, I can tell you we're looking somewhere between the 10 and 50K price bracket. Where in that range can you see yourself, if at all? See how that works? Okay. Now you'll notice that the range is intentionally left wide open. So you want to be able to provide a low-cost solution, provided it is a solution, and a high-cost ticket item, you know, with all the bells and whistles, whatever it might be. And just present that the range of cost for them could be anywhere between those two marks. So Andy, in order to solve the challenges you've mentioned, I can tell you we're likely to be looking somewhere between £10,000 and £50,000. Where in that range do you think is going to be appropriate for your organisation? And let the prospect do the work. Now, if they really struggle at this point and they seriously don't know, it probably means that you haven't built up enough value, you haven't established the cost of their challenges accurately, or you're not dealing with somebody who has the confidence and the certainty to be able to give you that dollar mark. But provided you're speaking with the right person and having a good discovery process, you should absolutely be getting some idea of a budget that will work at this point. And then your job is simply to not deliver a price above that budget unless you have a real business case to be able to do so. So that is a way to deal with the budget objection before it even comes up. Give it a go, best of luck, and happy selling.